Okay, so picture this. It's what, 2 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, the glow of your phone is just illuminating the dark room, you're rereading a text message for the 15th time, desperately trying to decode the punctuation, wondering what that slight shift in tone actually means. We've all been there, right? It's just a deeply visceral, exhausting feeling. We often find that a clear, definite ending, while, incredibly painful, eventually lets us heal and move on. But a mixed signal, a situationship, that can keep you hooked and spinning for months. So welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unravel this completely fascinating emotional puzzle, why ambiguity can actually feel more addictive than rejection.
Think about these two words for a second. No and maybe. A clear, undeniable no is like a closed door, a blocked path. It hurts, absolutely, and it brings on a very real wave of grief. But psychologically speaking, a clear rejection severely limits the number of interpretations your mind actually has to manage. The story is simply over. But then, think about maybe. Maybe doesn't close the door, it cracks it just slightly open, and suddenly your brain is invited to create dozens, sometimes hundreds of possible realities. It keeps hope alive, for sure, but it also breeds these endlessly branching paths of uncertainty that just multiply outward.
Which brings us to the core of this whole thing. We really have to ask ourselves, when we're staring at our phones in the middle of the night trying to figure out what a delayed read receipt actually means, why can maybe occupy more of your mind than no? Why does our attention get so fiercely hijacked by the unresolved?
To really grasp this, let's dive into the power of maybe and the psychology of uncertainty.
It all starts with a concept psychologists call the need for closure. Basically, it's the desire for a definite, clear answer on a topic to alleviate the cognitive discomfort of confusion. We all naturally differ in how intensely we desire a definite answer in life. But if you're someone with a high need for closure, an unresolved situation isn't just a minor annoyance. It is a profound, visceral discomfort. It's literally like an itch deep in your brain that you absolutely cannot scratch. Your brain fundamentally dislikes confusion. When you don't have all the facts, your mind just goes into overdrive, frantically trying to alleviate that built-up tension. And this creates the very real pull of uncertainty. You see, when we get unexpected outcomes in life, whether they're good or bad, our brains update our expectations and finally settle down. But when things are ambiguous, that prediction system never gets to shut off. You are endlessly monitoring for new data. In fact, there's evidence suggesting that not knowing how someone feels about you can actually make you think about them more than if you knew they definitely liked you. It's a mind-blowing realization, isn't it? Because the outcome isn't settled, your mind just keeps obsessively working the problem, which can temporarily and ironically intensify your attention and attraction toward them.
Which, of course, leads us directly into the trap of rumination. Rumination is that repetitive thinking that feels incredibly productive. You really think you're solving a problem by, screenshotting a cryptic text, sending it to the group chat, and trying to decode a single misplaced exclamation mark. But you aren't actually producing a new decision or action. An ambiguous relationship gives your brain endless material for this, because every single memory can be twisted and turned to fit a dozen conflicting interpretations.
So how does this actually play out in real time? Let's take a look at the lover's pattern map.
Every single pattern starts with a trigger. In this case, the spark is usually a mixed message, an undefined relationship, maybe a sudden, unexplained distance, or a breakup that just completely lacked clarity. It's that terrifying moment where solid ground suddenly turns into a giant question mark. That sudden shift from the known to the unknown is exactly what sends your nervous system into overdrive and kicks off this entire chain reaction.
Let's break down this internal activation, which honestly happens almost instantly. First, your heart's motivation craves certainty and connection. You desperately want your preferred outcome. But right away, your spade system kicks in to protect you against a definite loss or making the wrong decision. Caught between wanting love and fearing pain, your diamond system starts repeatedly interpreting what every small signal could mean. You rationalize, well, maybe taking 3 hours to reply just means they're swamped at work. And all of this culminates in your club's behavior. Driven by that internal storm, you start analyzing, asking friends for opinions, checking their social media over and over, delaying your own life, and constantly returning to the puzzle.
When these four systems lock together, they create what we call the ambiguity loop.
Let's trace this out. Imagine a really frustrating week. Step 1. You receive an unclear signal, say a super cold one-word text. Step 2. That immediately causes you deep cognitive discomfort and panic. Step 3. Your brain jumps into overdrive interpretation mode to try and fix that awful feeling. Step 4, you find a temporary answer. You tell yourself, oh, they're just super stressed right now, and you feel this brief wave of relief.
But then, step 5. Friday night rolls around and they post a picture out at a bar with friends, laughing and clearly not stressed. It's a contradictory signal. And boom. Step 6. Renewed uncertainty. You are right back to square one, caught in this self-reinforcing cycle where finding an answer just restarts the momentum.
And here is exactly why that loop is so brutally hard to break. Think of it as an addiction to the repetitive pull. The immediate reward is finding a temporary explanation or a renewed possibility. Your brain gets a little hit of dopamine and says, I figured it out. But the long-term consequence? It's heavy. You're getting more mental occupation without getting any more relational evidence. Your brain is running an absolute marathon of interpretation, but the actual relationship in the real world hasn't moved a single inch. In reality, you're basically in a relationship with your own anxiety and your own hope, not with the other person.
So, to get out of this trap, we need to talk about knowing the difference, behavior versus interpretation.
There are a few absolutely crucial distinctions we have to make here. First, ambiguity might intensely hijack your focus, but remember, attention is not connection. Staring at their profile does not deepen mutual intimacy. Second, and this is so important, an unclear person might just be conflicted or avoidant or frankly just bad at communicating. Mixed signals don't automatically prove they're a master manipulator or a narcissist. We don't need to diagnose their motives to recognize the harmful pattern they're creating in our lives. And finally, perhaps the most powerful takeaway, a clear personal decision can exist without complete interpersonal closure.
So how do we take our power back? Let's look at breaking the weight and interrupting the pattern. You may not control the answer, but you can stop making your life wait for it. When you're stuck in the ambiguity loop, you are essentially giving away your agency. You're pausing your entire timeline, just waiting for someone else to resolve the tension for you. Shifting your focus means accepting that the most useful question is no longer, what do they really feel? But rather, what pattern are their current choices creating in my life? And is that acceptable to me? It's all about reclaiming your own timeline. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with the ultimate antidote to the ambiguity loop. Think about the confusing situations you might be navigating right now and ask yourself this single, powerful reflection question. What decision would protect you even if you never learned their full motive?
Sometimes the closure we so desperately crave isn't something we can extract from someone else. It's something we give to ourselves through our own boundaries. Know what repeats.